It's day 109 of the Israel-Hamas war, a day which was perhaps the deadliest for Israel since it started its ground offensive in Gaza. Here's why I say this. Earlier today, Israel suffered its worst loss in Gaza in terms of casualties. 24 IDF soldiers were killed during one operation. 24. That's a big number, especially given Israel's advanced defense capabilities as compared to Hamas. How did this happen? Was the IDF caught off guard? Well, reports say the deaths occurred during an IDF raid in the west part of Khan Younis. For the unversed, Khan Younis is the main city located in the southern part of the enclave. It is sheltering hundreds of thousands of Palestinians who have fled areas in the north. Israel says the city is now the principal base of Hamas, so it's been launching raids in this particular city. But this time, things didn't go according to plan. Reports say a rocket-propelled grenade hit a tank that was guarding Israeli forces. At the same time, there was an explosion across two buildings where the IDF had planted explosives in order to destroy the buildings. The explosion triggered their collapse onto the Israeli soldiers. This led to the death of 24 soldiers, marking the highest one-day Israeli death toll since the war began. Although some media reports say that the real figure could be higher, here's what the Israeli military spokesperson, Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, had to say about the incident.
According to what is known at this stage, around 4 o'clock, it seems that an RPG missile was fired by terrorists at a tank that was guarding the force. In parallel, there was an explosion of two-story buildings. The structures collapsed as a result of this explosion, at a time when most of the force were inside them and nearby. The buildings likely exploded as a result of mines that our forces had planted inside in order to destroy the buildings and the terrorist infrastructure in the area. We are still examining and investigating the details of the event and the reason for the explosion.
The heavy death toll has sent shockwaves across Israel. It has also infuriated Israeli government officials. Speaking about the incident, Israel's defense minister Yoav Gallant said, and I quote, "This is a hard and painful morning. Our hearts are with our precious families during their hardest hour." He added, "This war will determine the fate of Israel in the next decades. Our fallen soldiers are an imperative to achieve war objectives." Meanwhile, the IDF has also released the names of the soldiers killed. It says most of them were serving as reservists at the official training school. The list includes the likes of 32-year-old Sergeant Major Matan Lazar, 23-year-old Sergeant First Class Cydric Garin, and 27-year-old Sergeant First Class Yoval Lopez, to name a few. So how do we perceive these developments? Do they indicate a new turn in this war? Well, we can't say for sure at this point, but one thing's certain, that Israeli forces are still facing fierce resistance in Gaza. This is despite claiming to be able to wind down operations in the area. Plus, Hamas's ability to continue to launch such attacks, that too 3 months after the IDF first entered the enclave, has raised questions about Israel's strategy for this war. In a nutshell, this attack proves that Israel's claims that it has finished Hamas are wrong. Back in Jerusalem, this bitter reality has saddened many Israelis. They're reacting with remorse, expressing their shock at what unfolded. Here are a few of the voices.
Well, that's horrible. That's horrendous. It's terrible. You know, it's our sons, it's our brothers. It's terrible. But we got to do what we got to do so that October 7th doesn't happen again.
The most terrible incident that occurred to Israel, and it's very sad, you know, to deal with that, to wake up in the morning and to read about all the soldiers that fell down, that they die, and you don't know how to handle it. You don't know how to handle the situation.
I am sick that we're losing these wonderful young men. We need them alive in Israel.
The bottom line is this. 109 days since this war started, no side seems to have the upper hand. Israel's claims of destroying Hamas have proven to be wrong. Is this why it is offering a 2-month pause in fighting? You see, an Axios report claims that Israel has given Hamas a proposal to pause fighting for 2 months as part of a multi-phase deal, a deal that would include the release of all remaining hostages in Gaza. There are more than 130 of them who are still being held by Hamas. Israel is willing to temporarily cease its operations if Hamas releases them. But the question is, Will Hamas, which may be emboldened by the recent attacks, comply? We'll have to wait and watch. Pakistan's capital is under siege. In Islamabad, the chickens are coming home to roost. After decades of providing patronage to terror groups, it's payback time for Pakistan. On Monday morning, just a few hours after parents dropped their children at schools, they received a distressing message. It urged them to pick up their children and take them home. Pak authorities decided to indefinitely close authorities and universities along with schools in the capital. Why? You see, the city is in a state of alert due to fears of a possible terror attack. You heard that right. Terror state Pakistan is worried that they might come under attack by the same forces that they have sheltered for so long. As per reports, the closure order came after Pak authorities received the threat of a suicide attack by a banned militant group. And as is the case with such situations, fake news further amplified fear and confusion. By evening, the Islamabad police was forced to dispel panic. In a post on X, formerly Twitter, the police asked people not to believe in fake notifications being issued for the closure of businesses and educational institutions. The police confirmed that they did receive the threat of a suicide attack, but did not identify the terror group that issued that threat. Here's what we do know so far. An Islamabad police official told news agency AFP on condition of anonymity that 3 universities affiliated with Pakistan's military were shut down because of potential threats. The universities in question are the National Defence University, Bahariya University and Air University. These institutions are tied to Pakistan's Army, Navy and Air Force. Now they have been shut down indefinitely. Multiple media reports said that the attack was planned at the Bahariya University and it could involve sending a female suicide bomber. A text sent to this particular university, and as seen by AFP, said, due to security reasons, all faculty and staff except security and necessary admin staff will work from home. A 4th university, a public institute, also received the threat. The name of this institute is Quaid-e-Azam University. It will reportedly be closed for a week. These closures come after Pak security agencies conducted a search operation in the suburbs of Islamabad on late Sunday. That's when the university administration reportedly informed students about the indefinite closure. The announcement will also affect the upcoming exams. They have been postponed for now. The Pak police imposed complete ban on public gatherings. They said that they were working to ensure that law and order is under control. But the timing of this is important. Pakistan is set to vote in general elections on February 8th, and this is amid overlapping political, economic and security crises. Add to that the rising violence along its border regions. In 2023, Pakistan witnessed as many as 789 terror attacks. Nearly 1,000 died as a result of these attacks, including civilians and security personnel. 2 of the most violent attacks last year were carried out by the regional affiliate of ISIL, the Islamic State Khorasan province, also known as ISKP. In July, they targeted a political rally in Bajor, a tribal district in neighboring Afghanistan. More than 60 people were killed. In September, they were behind a major blast in Balochistan, which killed more than 50 people. Overall, deaths have been at a record 6-year high since 2017, according to a report by the Center for Research and Security Studies. It's a perfect storm of troubles for Pakistan. Let's not forget the cross-border flare-up that happened last week between Iran and Pakistan over Baloch militants. It highlighted how, in the absence of counter-terrorism measures, festering issues can rapidly escalate into on-ground conflict. This is the cost that Pakistan has to pay for harboring terror. Former US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton had famously said, "You can't keep snakes in your backyard and expect them to only bite your neighbor." This was Clinton's warning in 2011 for providing a safe haven to terror groups. That statement has aged well. In fact, it sums up why Pakistan, the exporter of terror, continues to face terror threats within its own country. Even after Pakistan became an ally of America in the global war on terror, in the aftermath of 9/11, Pakistan never seriously tried to disarm jihadi groups on its own soil. While the ISKP targeted civilians, other newer terror groups like the Tehreek-e-Taliban, the Pakistani offshoot of the Afghan Taliban, have singled out security personnel. With the backing from the Taliban, terror groups have reportedly changed their tactics. They are not attacking civilians in the cities. They have focused instead on Pakistan's military and police personnel. The number of security personnel killed in the attacks is highest in a decade. The human toll of this has been immense. On December 13th last year, a total of 25 Pak army soldiers were killed in 3 separate incidents. It happened in the restive Khyber Pakhtunkhwa region. It was the Pak military's highest single-day death toll from a terror attack in 2023. The TJP, or the Tehreek-e-Jihad, a new group affiliated with the Tehreek-e-Taliban, claimed hand in these attacks. It was formed only in February last year. This group is focused on attacking only military targets. They go so far as to condemn any terror attacks that end up killing civilians. Make no mistake, Pakistan is in this condition thanks to its own policies. Pakistan has become both a sponsor of terrorism and now an epicenter of terrorism. Remember, it is a nuclear power which suffers tremendously from attacks of domestic extremists and stands politically troubled as well as economically overwhelmed. Pakistan's military leaders have for years vowed counter-terrorism measures, but they have never taken them seriously enough to implement them effectively. There is now an urgent need for the people of Pakistan, its politicians and its powerful army to stand on the same side in the fight against terrorism. Unless they do that, new offshoots and breakaway groups of existing terror groups will continue to emerge, and it's the people who will continue to pay the price. On tonight's segment of Gravitas Snapshot, we're putting the spotlight on Dean Phillips, the ice cream man who can make life slippery for US President Joe Biden. He's a multi-millionaire gelato tycoon, the heir to one of America's largest liquor dynasties, and a Democrat presidential candidate who's already mounting a big challenge to Joe Biden in the race for the White House's top job in 2024. While most polls show incumbent Biden as an underdog in his anticipated contest against Republican ex-US President Donald Trump, Dean Phillips, it seems, is changing that equation with his own presidential bid. That's right. According to him, the 2024 US presidential elections could become a Phillips versus Biden contest rather than the expected Trump versus Biden rematch. In a recent interview, the congressman from Minnesota said, and I quote, "Joe Biden is one of the least well-positioned Democrats to take on this mission. Biden is still the overwhelming favorite for a Democratic nomination, but Phillips' chances of winning are not zero at the moment." He was born in January 20, 1969 in St. Paul, Minnesota. His biological father was a captain in the US Army. Family members say that Dean is the spitting image of his father. In 2000, Dean Phillips earned an MBA from the University of Minnesota. He was named the new CEO of Phillips Distilling Company. In 2012, Phillips stepped down as CEO of Phillips Distilling to manage a small Texas-based gelato company called Talenti. It quickly became one of the best-selling ice cream brands in the country. Phillips' political career began in 2018. In his first campaign, he presented himself as a fiscally responsible, socially inclusive moderate. He focused on bipartisanship and pragmatic governance. He said at the time, "I don't aspire to be a politician, I aspire to be a representative." Interestingly, he has voted with Biden's stated policy positions 100% of the time. After Hamas attacked Israel in early October last year, he called for a two-state solution. In early 2023, Phillips began agitating for a Democratic challenger to Biden. In February, he said of Biden, and I quote, "He's a president of great competence and success. I admire the heck out of President Biden, and if he were 15, 20 years younger, it would be a no-brainer to nominate him. But considering his age, it's absurd we're not promoting competition, but in fact trying to extinguish it." According to reports, a campaign bus with Dean Phillips for president was spotted driving around Ohio on October 24th. This was several days before he had officially announced his presidential bid. The bus bumper had teased his new campaign slogan, "Make America Affordable Again." What do fellow Democrats say? Well, they are not very pleased. Democrats have gone to great lengths to ridicule Phillips and his campaign. Some have even accused him of disrespect and disloyalty. They say he is dividing the party. On January 20th, Phillips said he might even consider running on the ticket of No Labels, a centrist group exploring an independent bid if there appears to be a potential rematch between Trump and Biden. Naturally, Democrats are alarmed. They fear that his parallel candidacy might siphon votes from Joe Biden and hand them over with an edge to Donald Trump. It's a long-shot challenge to Biden at the moment, but Phillips has gone where few Democrats dare go, and that, in fact, is what makes 2024 race to the White House even more interesting.